Good morning, this is Jim Houtling. It's Thursday, September 30th, and I'm doing video number 4 as it pertains to my saga in trying to get a pergola built in my backyard. And I've had a problem, as I have outlined in the previous 3 videos, with Supreme Aluminum Florida. And I have a huge revelation today that I'll put in this video, but also I have had a response from the Florida licensing agency and regulations department on my problem, and they basically said that this situation with Supreme Aluminum looks more like a civil suit and not something that they should be getting into. So that path has kind of dissolved away. They're not going to support me, and so here we are today. Now, what you're looking at is the marked up drawing by the Miami-Dade inspector when he came to look at the foundations and the columns with the rebar in the holes. The columns were not set, they were just laying in the hole, but the Miami-Dade inspector added some interesting notes to the drawing for Supreme Aluminum to follow and to be aware of. What they did, what the inspector did, was to point out that this is not an attached pergola to the house, and the setback from the house is 11 feet. Also, we have this dimension in the back, which is the setback from the property line, and he's making them aware of that also. So this 11 feet dimension from the house to the roof line of the pergola, which is 12 feet by 24 feet, should be 11 feet. The setback from the property line to the center line of the columns should be 13 feet and a portion of another inch. So that's where the pergola should be set. And what I'm going to show you is that Supreme Aluminum Florida missed this totally. And I will now start through showing you exactly what I laid out. Being that I am an engineer, I laid out exactly where the hole should be, where the column should be, and the Miami-Dade inspector that came yesterday verified this, and there is a violation of the Florida code based in Miami-Dade code for the location of the pergola itself. We're not talking about the issue with the relationship of the column to the hole, which I was objecting before. Now they have violated the actual location of the pergola itself to the house, as well as to the offset setback of the pergola from the property line in the back. I will show you that right now. So, as you can see, I have 3 lines on the screen right now. The one on the right over here is actually where the footer should be, and you can see it's way off. The middle line here, number 2, that line is where the roof line is supposed to be. That is 11 feet to the house, and that 11 feet covers the distance from the house to the roof line of the pergola. Now, the third line, which is here, that is the center line of where the columns are supposed to be on this row. And if you look, the column is a long way away from where it's supposed to be to that line. As you can see right here, the pergola is considerably, 20 inches at least, out of position and violates the setback as well as the distance to the house. And to prove that even further, up on the fence here, you will see I marked the distance to the lot line as 13 feet at this point. I translated that to this line here for the back columns. And as you can see, over here's the column, and it's supposed to be here. The center line of that column is supposed to be here, and the footer is supposed to be the opening all the way back here. So that confirms the problem on that side, and this confirms the problem on the other row of columns that are along the back property line. So as you can see, there's a huge problem here. Miami-Dade has recorded it, and now they're going to have to make a decision by tomorrow. They said, they promised, of what is the next action in dealing with Supreme Aluminum of Florida. I want to make it perfectly clear how we got into this position with Supreme Aluminum missing the location of the columns by so much. What you see here is the middle column in the back, and if you look down here, you can see that off the back of the slab, my patio slab, we're at about 30 inches. That is proof of how this whole column of six, all the foundations for all 6 columns started with the rear row being cut out first by measuring right off the back of the patio slab. All 3 locations are set up just that way because the cutout here is at least 30 inches square, which is what the requirement was. Then they turned around and measured from these holes to do the other 3 columns on this end. So this is how Supreme Aluminum hole digging crew for the patio foundations started the process instead of measuring from the lot line in the back out 13 feet to get to this location for the center of the columns, this location for the edge of the foundation hole. And that offset everything in the wrong direction toward the property line. That's how this all happened. That is the root cause. The starting point was actually my patio slab and not the dimensions they were supposed to hold on the setback to the back lot line or the distance of 11 feet from the house to the roof line of the pergola. That is what happened. So where we're at right now is, as I showed you on the drawing, the Miami-Dade inspector, when he came to look at the footers and the rebar in the holes, he showed what Supreme Aluminum was supposed to be doing in order to lay the pergola out properly in reference to the house and to the rear property setback. It was not done. Actually, what happened is that Supreme Aluminum crew started laying out the pergola to the back end of my patio slab. They never referenced the house dimension or the setback dimension, and here we are with a huge problem that needs to be addressed by Supreme Aluminum. I am assuming. I'm waiting for Miami-Dade to tell me. They said it's a negotiation process. I don't believe that. I don't know why they don't have the authority to tell Supreme Aluminum, you need to come over here and you got to make this right. So we'll see what happens when Miami-Dade inspection department gets back to me tomorrow with what their game plan is. What I did is I listed, if this is going to be a negotiation, what my demands are as it pertains to the repair of this problem. And what I insisted on is, first, all the columns have to be replaced, because they're going to have to use a jackhammer to break up the concrete around the column and go all the way down 30 inches into the hole and clean out all of the rebar, all of the concrete, and the columns are going to be damaged. So, number one, they've got to replace with new columns when they place them in the new position. Another item that I put on that was that the footers, Miami-Dade inspection has to come and see the columns in place where they're actually going to be just before concrete is poured. And that cost is going to be on Supreme Aluminum Florida also. Then I insisted, instead of what I have today with partially filled concrete, I insist that Supreme Aluminum will use some kind of mixer and mix the concrete above ground and pour it in all at once and level it off to the top of the patio slab, all in one sequence, to have it congruous, instead of what I have today would be one slab on top of another slab, which to me is not the way it's supposed to be done. So here we go. We're going to find out what happens now that I have proven myself. I did these measurements. I laid out the lines. I showed it to Miami-Dade. Now we'll find out what's going to happen going into the future. So my expectation is I will allow them to Supreme Aluminum to come back on my property, and I will only by appointment and with somebody here, me especially, to watch what is going on all the time through this whole process of tearing out and reestablishing the footer holes. They've got to be cut out even more. So now I'm going to have a slab in 2/3 when it should have been just, a footer in 2/3. All has to be filled with concrete to fix the problem. So, from this point, I am just waiting. And like I said, this is video number 4. And I want to bring up one more thing to homeowners. If you're going to do a project like this, and you have the engineering drawings in front of you, and you should demand them, you want a copy of the engineering drawings that are being sent to Miami-Dade for the permit approval. I didn't get that. I was totally depending on Supreme Aluminum to do their job properly. They got the permit themselves. I didn't get it. They got the permit. I never saw the actual engineering drawings until the Miami-Dade inspector came to look at the holes and the rebar in the holes, but not the location of the columns or the holes. He did not do that. And that is a failure mode. That is a big one, and from my understanding, Miami-Dade, as it stands right now, does not require to measure the location of those columns before pouring concrete. But the inspector says we will measure after the project is completely done to make sure it's to the drawing. I said, well, that's too late. The whole patio's done, the concrete's in the hole, and now you're going to tell me that I'm violating the location of the pergola not being to the engineering drawing. And I said, that's unacceptable. You need to put a requirement in that the inspector comes back just before pouring concrete and makes sure those dimensions to the house and to the lot line are correct. And the spacing of the columns also correct, because these columns are off 4 inches from one row to the other of 3. They're too close. They're 9 feet 8 inches. They should be 10 feet centers between the 2 rows of columns of 3. So that is the issue. So what I recommend to the homeowners is get this drawing as soon as possible before they get too far in. Once they're starting to set the columns up, and have yourself this. A vast majority of homeowners know how to use a tape measure. Check the dimensions on the columns to the house, to the lot line, as it pertains to making sure the pergola is in the right position to start with before concrete is poured. That is the message today. So now I'm waiting on Miami-Dade to get back to me and say, what are you going to do with Supreme Aluminum in order to get this problem fixed? Because I demand it be fixed. So I'll let you know. Like I said, this is video number 4. It'll be up soon on YouTube, and the saga continues. Thank you very much.